SandCity Sports. Let's go around and check. Let's check our socials. All right. Facebook is good. IG is good. How's everybody out there doing? In television land, as they say. We're going around the world right now. Facebook and the IG are good. Twitter is good. YouTube, good. Twitch is right there waiting. Twitch looks like it's on point. Okay, welcome to SandCity Sports, to the business. Happy Wednesday, folks. I had to think to myself, because SandCity Sports is coming at you on the Eastern a little bit later than usual, but certainly the right time is the nighttime, or flip that over, the nighttime is the right time. We are always right on time when we have the ability, we meaning I, to get on and to talk about sports and to talk about culture. On the Eastern, a little bit later, Western, a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. And I hope everybody out there is doing all right. Middle of the week, right? Got through Wednesday, all downhill Thursday and Friday, power through to get to the end of another work week. Tonight, got to get into March Madness, of course. Have chalk, all number one seeds on the men's side. Women's side, not all number one seeds. We know that because Juju on that beat could not be there to stand tall for the USC Trojans. A good game, though, between the Huskies and the USC Trojans. They stood tall. Lisa Gottlieb, I believe, is the USC coach, who does a fine job as far as I'm concerned. And they represented themselves well. They stayed in that game. They battled, but obviously, you don't have the best player in college basketball. You're not going to be able to beat a veteran and very hungry UConn team. I'm seeing, folks, on the women's side, I'm seeing UConn in South Carolina. Let's get Dawn Staley in South Carolina up here for you on the screen. Let's get Dawn Staley. I'm letting people know that the live stream is on. Let's get Dawn Staley in the South Carolina Gamecocks for you up there on the screen. Because listen, if you love basketball, then you love women's basketball. There's no two ways about it. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. There's one particular, yes, Coach Staley. Is that a cardigan? It's the Times reporting on Coach Staley, right? An individual that is tremendous for the women's game, for the game in general. Love Coach Staley. Times doing this article, but the fact of the matter is, first of all, and let me just I got to speak on what Dawn Staley means to me personally as a basketball fan, in terms of somebody that has climbed the mountain, right? In terms of getting involved in coaching, wasn't handed anything from the city of brotherly love. That speaks to me. Have family still to this day in the city of brotherly love. Grew up going to the city of brotherly love in my formative years, and I still remember that fondly. So anytime you're talking about Philly, for me, you're speaking my language. So Dawn Staley being a Philly basketball product, and then going back and beginning her coaching career at Temple, okay, before moving on down to South Carolina. South Carolina saw the writing on the wall, so to speak, and they got ahead of things in a good way, and brought Coach Staley in, and the rest is history. But the fact of the matter is, when Coach Staley was in those formative years, just starting up, who was reigning supreme in women's college basketball? That's right, one Mr. Geno was reigning supreme. And we seem to, that there has been a changing of the guard. There's no two ways about it. But there's been a changing of the guard. Everybody knows who Caitlin Clark is. You wouldn't know who Caitlin Clark is if South Carolina had done what everybody thought they were going to do, which is mop the floor with that Iowa team in Aaliyah Boston's junior year. I believe yes, Aaliyah Boston. That was Aaliyah Boston's junior year because they took the title her sophomore year. Aaliyah Boston, the pride of Boston prospect. Aaliyah Boston went to Worcester Academy here in the Commonwealth. We'll speak on Aaliyah and what she's doing. Interestingly enough, right? Because the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, and it's a great thing for basketball, women's basketball. Again, if you love basketball, then you love women's basketball. There's no two ways about it. Okay, and we'll talk about, people want to talk about WNBA and losing money and this, that, and the third. Hoopers respect, appreciate, support the women's game. It's always been this way. Always. Okay? Never mind the late, great Kobe Bryant, the Mamba, right? Had the daughters coming up and was leading them in the way that they should go. But even when they was, okay, Kobe, LeBron, you love the women's game. Okay? And specific to Dawn Staley in South Carolina, they were supposed to mop the floor with that Iowa team. Okay? Coach Launer, Iowa coach, she's since retired. Apologize for the mispronunciation there. But Iowa in that game just came out and mad dogged them. People, I always think about this the other day, in terms of Caitlin Clark. And again, Caitlin Clark is tremendous. On the court, off the court, she's outstanding. But people had a real problem. And I was watching that game. Again, we support. And I'm going to be watching these games coming up this weekend. And Iowa came out and, you know what I mean? They came at them. And I think in that game, it just kind of shocked everybody. Right? South Carolina with Coach Staley has played a power game inside out. When you have the Aaliyah Boston Player of the Year, dominant, and Aja Wilson before that, and Dawn Staley's always had, almost like a Roy Williams, right? Scott Pollard and Rafe LaFriends, dating myself, and a small forward who you might have remembered, one Mr. Paul Pierce on those Roy Williams Kansas teams. Do we remember? So Dawn Staley, plays a power game. And that, was how that game was supposed to go. But Iowa just came out and spread it out for round one. High screen roll Caitlin Clark, and she was just raining it down. And that game was close down the stretch. South Carolina never able to take the lead, never able to get, to tie the game up. But, I'm just thinking back, the famous Caitlin Clark. People took umbrage. People were, what? Why? Caitlin Clark, tried and true. Basketball, basketball in Iowa. What are we talking about? We're talking about some Field of Dreams type of love here. And Caitlin Clark always been a good player. The whole UConn thing. Well, they had Beckers. That's why the whole UConn thing didn't work out. Geno was not wrong for taking Paige Beckers. And again, we didn't know who Caitlin Clark was her freshman year because Paige Beckers took UConn to the championship. I don't think they won it that year. I know they didn't win it that year. Forgot who got them. Was it LSU? Might have got Paige Beckers her freshman year, and then a number of injuries, that she's bounced back from. Right? Becker's not there her sophomore year. Caitlin Clark, who was balling. Caitlin Clark's been balled all 3 years, 4 years, however many, all 3 years at Iowa. But came in undercover sophomore year. Becker's hurt. Caitlin Clark still balling. But again, nobody picked them. Very few people that did not live in Iowa picked them to beat South Carolina in that semifinal game, which they won. And, the Caitlin Clark legend is, was born. Right? What does that have to do with Coach Dawn Staley? What it has to do with Coach Dawn Staley is, never mind, the revenge tour last year, undefeated, just mopping the floor with teams. And Iowa gave them a good game in the finals. I was, shout out to Iowa, and the rematch. Even though South Carolina was not having it, but Iowa was right there. That was the game was nip and tuck. Now, did they deserve to get the offensive illegal screen, nonsensical? Did UConn deserve that in the semifinals? No. So they got some help. They did get some help to get there. But they played well in the championship game. You got to give credit where credit is due. But Dawn Staley, South Carolina, the epicenter of women's basketball. Let's just remember that since time immemorial, that was Geno Auriemma and the UConn Huskies. And so this finals matchup is what I'm pulling for. No disrespect to Notre Dame and the other teams. As anyone, I got to get that for. Let's get that, get that up there. But we need. I want to see, just based on the fact that UConn beat the brakes off of South Carolina earlier in the season, which rarely, if ever, happens. UConn beat South Carolina down. And you know what I mean? Where am I going with this? I'm almost, because UConn beat South Carolina down, but then UConn ends up as a 2 seed, and South Carolina is a 1 seed. Nonetheless, in this tournament, South Carolina has been struggling, but winning close games. They haven't, hold on. What's this update? Okay, thank you for the update. Okay, Ohtani crushes a walk-off home run. I have to get that for you on the screen. Ohtani out there crushing. Dodgers off to an 8-0 start. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Talk about the rich getting richer. But hey, Dodgers, they're printing money with the TV contract and LA and sunny shine, warm weather baseball, all that stuff. I can't be mad at them. Even though I'm, East Coast, in the Commonwealth. So respect to the Red Sox. Took me some time to warm up to the Red Sox over the years, but certainly have warmed up to the Red Sox. And you know what I mean? Obviously, there's a checkered history just in terms of, just being receptive and being, in Boston, #1 sports city in America. As I've lived on the Cape longer and longer, I've come to understand and appreciate and respect that. But I also, am a history person and have family that lived through busing. We're in college when busing was going on in Boston, right? So I also have that perspective. Speaking of which, and so we're gonna come back to Coach. We're gonna stay on Coach Dawn Staley, but I'm gonna make a couple points relative to Boston. Then we're gonna get back to Dawn Staley. Then we're gonna just keep it moving and grooving here, folks. Folks, when we talk about busing and Boston and the history, of diversity and there's 2 things that I'm going to mention. Let me just go around and see if anybody's rocking with me. It's late, but this is when we have the time, so this is when we make the time. SandCity Sports on this Wednesday, midweek, work week. Hey, you gotta get in and make hay while the sun shines. So that's what we're doing. We're across the board. All the channels are good. Everything is good, people. I know it's a little bit late for a weekday night, but maybe it's not that late. I know people stay up. You know what I mean? We got the early birds, and then we got some night owls out there. So it is what it is. Like I said, like to get in around 10 o'clock, came in close to the 11 or a little bit thereafter, but this is when I had the time. So we make the time to do the passion project. You know what it is on SandCity Sports. You have to do the things that are positive, productive, creative, artistic. You got to do it. This is my passion project, so I got to do it, folks. You understand? So I'm thrilled. I'm glad to be with you. Am I going to have to, you know what I mean, reorganize the sleep schedule? I lose a little bit here. I pick up some there. A little power nap going on tomorrow afternoon. It is what I'm glad to do it. Glad to do it for the privilege of being on with you. But back to Boston, and as a sports fan, huge sports fan, Boston being the #1 sports city, obviously person of color, the checkered past, Red Sox being the last team in Major League Baseball to integrate. Obviously, Bill Russell's house was vandalized. These type of incidents, that they're there. But what I will say about busing, uh, importantly, is you got to check out All Souls. Okay, All Souls, a family story from Southie. Uh, McDonald. Michael Patrick McDonald, All Souls. It's important to check that book out. If you're a reader, I know it's on Audible. Check it out on Audible just to give perspective. I understood busing much more and I had much better lens after I read that book. And, case in point, what does that have to do with sports? What has to do with sports is, and it's been 50 years since busing and still, it's remembered. Um, but the thing with busing is, like we talk about in education, unfunded mandates, right? Or, underfunded mandates. Busing collapsed in part because you took two communities that already had high needs and you just had them switch. Busing was not to start, we're going to take these communities that have resources, that have, um, you know, are able to have much greater civic participation, instead of just people just working 40, 50, 60, 70 out, they can't always do and be at all, they're just trying to get by. And so the thing with busing that I learned that I always kept is that if you wanted this idea or then you need to provide the funding to go along with it, and then also not just take communities that already have, that's what I learned. That was helpful and important for me. Back to Dawn Staley, folks, and what we have this weekend in women's college basketball. That's a beautiful thing. Yes, South Carolina got demolished, embarrassed. But I, for one, think that Dawn Staley might have been holding back some. I think she might have been holding back. I think Dawn might have been holding back and just keeping something, what I'm saying, in that back pocket ready for this Final Four. Okay, without I say I'm gonna include, then I just keep going. We're not even. We got a lot of women's basketball today, folks, because I was watching listening to the Odd Couple. Shout out to Fox Sports Radio. Shout out to Rob Parker and the Odd Couple. We don't play here. We congratulate. If you know what I mean, I'm not, but I might have to be up late night, like I have to be. But shout out to Ben Maller and the Maller Militia always. Okay, tremendous programs and talent and all the rest. But I'm listening to the Odd Couple tonight, and they had Nancy Lieberman on. So we're going to have to get this for you on the screen. Because Nancy Lieberman was talking about winning national championships at Old Dominion. And as soon as you talk about Old Dominion, as far as I'm concerned, you're talking about Medina Dixon, the pride of Boston. National championship at Old Dominion. We're going to get it for you on the screen. I'm thinking to myself that it was Medina and it was Nancy Lieberman out there getting that natty in the 80s when Dawn Staley was in her prime, her heyday. What? So we're going to, anytime, what? Always have to shout out Medina Dixon. And we're going to get Medina for you on the screen very soon. But that, so we're going to go to that after we finish talking about South Carolina and UConn. Point of fact is, I because of how, and I Geno, a lot of respect, how he come, I a lot of respect for Geno. I vibe with Dawn Staley and how she, you know what I mean? Like you see the out, you know what I mean? How she infuses the culture and style and social justice and a number of things into what she does in a conservative region, frankly. But hey, you can be conservative. I'm Dawn Staley strikes me as more progressive, but we're gonna respect each other and we're gonna make this thing work. We're gonna make it work. And it has worked and it is working. Let me just say this though. You know what I mean? This game is more even than it has been in years past between UConn and South Carolina. This game is more even than it has been in years past. And UConn was not healthy last year. They didn't have Ozzie Fudd. They didn't have Caroline Ducharme, the pride of Milton, Massachusetts. So UConn being healthy this year, And we saw what Geno could put together when they weren't healthy, when they had Iowa on the ropes. It might be time for stores on the men's side. They had to spread a lot of wealth to be spread, and Coach Hurley was none too pleased with it. And Coach Hurley, who is my coach, and you know what I mean, but he's got to watch the temper, and he's got to watch it. He just does. Could this be the year that UConn on the women's side brings prosperity back to Stores, Connecticut? My heart is with South Carolina, but honestly, this year might be time for the Huskies. Might be time for the Huskies to get that championship. Um, we shall see. But yes, March Madness, tremendous, and we're gonna get to the men's side, but we need to get Nancy. We talk about women's basketball. Come on now. Nancy Lieberman and Medina Dixon, did they play together? Okay, you can't see what I'm seeing. I might have to look this. I don't see a. Hold on. Is that? Are we looking at? Might that be a young Nancy? I'm gonna have to search this up while we're. All right, so let's get this for you on the screen. Again, people. Woo! Right? I'm so glad because we got to share this with the people. So glad we going and we holding up the women's game and putting it in the place that it needs to be at. Now, this is Medina Dixon, pride of the Commonwealth. Okay, um, Medina Dixon, National Player of the Year in 1981 on the women's side at a Cambridge Ring and Latin. Anybody know who the Player of the Year in high school basketball on the boys' side was in 81? Also went to Cambridge Ring and Latin. Well, Mr. Patrick Ewing. But right here we see, right? People want to talk. We never got to see and understand and appreciate because we didn't have a WNBA. But Cheryl Miller, to this day, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Talk about NBA teams like, hey, we we might need to sure. And the same is true for Medina in the city of Boston. The conversation out, you go to Washington Park in Boston, in the day, and Medina was out there just, hey, come, game straight 11, just giving them 5, 6, 7 points. Bring the next one. Medina out there just handling business, playing with the guys and putting people on skates. But it's a great picture right here. Medina and Cheryl Miller, two of the all-time greats. You're not getting a chance to see. Let me see. I don't know why it gives me, hold on. Can I see? No, it's not giving me the right. And now it's all blurry. I gotta wonder, is that, because we'll scroll down. Gotta see, we have the screen for you. Again, we're talking women's basketball on this Wednesday. Check in the SandCity Sports. Couple more things to get to. I'm asking myself, is this Nancy Lieberman? That's what I'm asking myself. I got to Google this up on another page. You know what I mean? I should have this off the top of my head. but I got to, first of all, I need to take a look. We're going to have that picture on the screen. And I'm going to take a look at another picture of Nancy Lieberman at Old Dominion so that we can confirm. I look at one picture, I look at another picture, then I'll be able. No, that's not Nancy Lieberman. That is not Nancy Lieberman by a long shot. But shoot. Nancy Lieberman in the day was on the Odd Couple today just talking about this whole NIL revolution. Nancy Lieberman was like, and that, by the way, is not Nancy Lieberman. That most definitely is Medina Dixon, Old Dominion national champions. But Nancy Lieberman was talking about, hey, when I was in college, what are you talking about? As they say, LeVar Arlington, check out the Up On Game podcast, Up On Game radio show, Saturdays, Fox Sports Radio. Go ahead and check that out. LeVar Arlington was talking about, and, again, dating myself, but on the cover of Sports Illustrated, Force of Nature. He's talking about, listen, man, when he was at Penn State, most recognizable face in college football, he's talking about you'd be driving around looking for somebody that loved you. There was no food to be had once that dining hall closed. Are you kidding me? People want to complain about NIL. Number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. Solid career, but like the guy in college football is driving around looking for a hot plate after he done signed hundreds of Sports Illustrateds because he's on the cover, right? Bananas. And Nancy Lieberman talks about that same reality, and it just to allow for some perspective, allow for is the transfer portal musical chairs best for college sports? No, but doggone it, getting market value. And these players, and by the way, I like the fact I'm hearing from certain programs. Syracuse was one where the coach says you're going to put a third of this NIL money away, period, if you're going to play for me. If you want to go get all but if you're here, you're putting a third of the NIL money away. That's what you're doing. We're going to build something generational, not some YOLO, spur of the moment. We're doing generational. Okay? And glad that that's taking place because we're talking about all, but then at the same time, it's not great. We know what the numbers are for NBA players in terms of their financial distress, 2 and 5 years after retirement. But, 19, 18, 20, 21-year-old, you're going to give them $1 million and they're still in college, in their own, peer group and all the rest of that stuff, and you just hand them $1 million. No good. No good. So, I like the program, programs are saying, listen, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, because not everybody has, Peyton Manning to be an uncle, Arch Manning to be an uncle, right? That's not something, to help people navigate the runaway, undisputed success. So yes, hope everyone is good. I got a lot of tabs open. We gotta reduce. I done brought the one over, so we gotta reduce some of these tabs. You're taking up too much. What they say, you're taking up too much bandwidth. I'm gonna reduce, but at the same time, we're gonna keep it moving and grooving. And I want to take a look, folks. I don't want to. We're going to. I don't want to. Late night on this check-in, but doing our thing, which is the most important thing. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Twitter is tough. Because you scroll down and you go, you look in. And you look for one thing and something else comes up. Just so we got, tragedies and okay, so we're gonna because it's not just because if Houston wins, I win my fantasy pool, and because I had Houston in a number of brackets. It's tough. It's tough. We got over it. I'm pulling for Coach Sampson, but I respect Duke. But here we go.
I don't recruit entitlement kids. There's no way that I recruit a kid unless I know that he'll buy in to the way we do things here. If you don't want problems, don't recruit them. I don't recruit entitlement kids. There's no way that I recruit a kid unless I know that he'll buy in to the way we do things here. If you don't want.
Yep. Another reason I'm Team Sampson in terms of what's been built up at Houston. Yeah, right there. Okay. We building with people that want to build. That's what we're doing. We're not going for the high flying, ace coon boom, but it's all about we building with people that want to build. Another thing I gotta get, might have to. I can't always go to my links like I want to, but the average mile time on Houston is 5:16. The average mile time on Houston in terms of their conditioning, their workout regimen, the average mile time is 5:16. This is going to be such a great game because Houston is just known for locking teams down, and Duke is known for just getting out and scoring the basketball. They have weapons. So just a clash and convergence of styles. I will be good either way. Jon Scheyer has, you know what I mean? He's come in. He said, I'm not afraid to be the guy after the guy. He's showing that. Respect to that man, Jon Scheyer. And then, it's time. It's overdue for Coach Sampson to get a championship. Now, if it's Sampson versus Pearl, then even though I have Houston, I don't have Auburn winning any of my brackets. I apologize, Coach Pearl, but I don't. But I've said it in the number. That I want these two veteran coaches, one of these two, to get a natty. I want the wealth to be spread. The two New Jacks, Shire and Golden, the two young guys, the young intrepid coaches out there. I have no problem with them getting in the winner's circle. So I'm happy. And these are all good storylines, in terms of the coaches and the success. Nonetheless, for me, one more time here. Been this way.
Want problems, don't recruit them. I don't recruit entitlement kids. There's no way that I recruit a kid unless I know that he'll buy in to the way we do things here. If you don't want.
Got to buy in, You got to buy in, and get down with the program and be a system guy. And it doesn't mean being a system guy doesn't mean that you can't shine and be an NBA guy, but it has to come through the program and the process. Right? A lot like what Danny Hurley, over the last 2 years, people have gotten on board. And now that they see the results, they've gotten on board with that 100 and 1,000%. I got a couple. See, this is what I have to, and I think I'm going to, we're going to finish. And I'm glad we got in on this check-in. Check-in is something I borrowed from CP the Franchise. Shout out to Knicks Fan TV. Shout out to CP the Fan. You know what I mean? Something that he, so you want to, your euphemisms, you know what I mean? Everybody has their own different style, so you don't want to pass something off as your own when you borrowed it. When you borrowed it, and I just want to see. Okay, so I don't know if we're gonna. No, we're not gonna. We're gonna stay. We're not gonna get into. There's not gonna be any issue on the IG because I found what I was looking for us to conclude. Hope everybody out there is doing well. Wednesday going into Thursday. Oh yeah. We got it. We got to get. at SandCity as we wind. You know what I mean? When we do the Friday or Saturday, you know, that those episodes we can sprawl out for an hour or 2 or 3, and you know what I mean. But on the late night Wednesday, we're gonna do about 40, 45. About 40, 45. But folks, genius right here.
What's up, boss?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's the damage?
Free.
Free. Well, what about for this?
Free as well.
Free.
All of it free. You want some nachos?
Yeah.
Free too.
All free.
All free.
Free. Can I get 50 of these?
Yeah.
Free.
Free.
What about a drink?
All of it free.
Free.
Have 2 drinks.
Drinks? Ooh.
And
all
a hot
free?
dog. Yeah.
Hot dogs free too?
All free. There you go.
Free.
Free.
Sweet.
That's right, Till Nation. This fall in Brooks Stadium, every fan, every game, always free. Free concessions, popcorn, nachos, hot dog, fountain drinks, and water for every fan this fall. Come out to Brooks Stadium, get your tickets now, and cheer on the Shots. Go Shots.
Before we watch this again, I'm ready to call Spirit Airline right now and get my ticket down there. I'm ready. And I don't even, you know, people know me. I like to be in the routine, you know, and I do, you know, I just have a set regimen, and I need to travel much more and get out and live, and I need to do all, but I don't. I be in my routine. I stop by, you know what I mean? I stop by my local establishment, my restaurant here, restaurant there, you know, get the sub over here, you know, at the Pinocchio's, you know, go here and get my combination over here at Great House at Tiki, you know what I mean? I'm in my routine. I'm ready to call Spirit Airline right now to be at the Coastal Carolina game to support these folks. Never mind, yeah, you know what I mean. Should I be eating all them hot? But if I go, I'm gonna eat. You gonna give the nachos and the fries, and you just passing it over? Well, what it can't say, we ain't gonna negotiate. We ain't gonna negotiate. Sold. Let me get another dog. You got me thinking about the Cape League. You got me thinking about the Cape League already. In terms of now, the Cape League, it's so awesome. It's such an awesome experience. You know what I mean? We disagree with these, you know what I mean? But we just come together. We watch the game. I don't bother you. You don't bother me. You voted for this person. I voted for that person. Who cares? We're watching a great game. We're cheering our team. We just leaving the rest alone. Nice, sunny. It's just, Cape League is glorious. Okay, I'm proud to pay concessions. Let me hear what you need for these pretzels. You deserve it. You get a tip too. I'm so thankful for that you guys do what you do. Great time. I love it so much. I should work. I feel bad. I should pick up. I should do something to contribute. They got it all settled and, you know, straightened out. You know, my Harbor Hawks, you know, they got it all. But I feel like I need to do something. But this is so super duper cool, awesome. Now, of course, you're feeding the doggone battalion, you know. But here's, you know, this is that 1% money right here. This is that 1% money. This is that NIL money in a different capacity that you just have to respect it. Okay? Can you do this all the time? No, it's not good for society. You get brain drain. If people know they're going to get something, they're not as motivated. They're not as creative. They're not as outgoing. You know what I mean? So that's, talk about capitalism and communism. There is such a thing as brain drain. So too much of a good thing is not good. So no, we don't know. No, this is, but in certain instances, this, you know, so whoever the beneficiary, no, that's not what I'm saying. Whoever the philanthropist is that's making this happen,
What's up, boss?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's the damage?
Free.
Free. Well, what about for this?
Free as well.
Free.
All of it free. You want some nachos?
he said you want
Free too.
All free.
All free.
Free. Can I get 50 of these?
Yeah.
Free.
Free.
What about a drink?
All of it free.
Free.
Have 2 drinks.
Drinks?
He said
And a
you
hot
want
dog. Yeah.
Hot dogs free?
All free. There you go.
Free.
Free.
Sweet.
That's right, Till Nation. This fall in Brooks Stadium, every fan, every game, always free. Free concessions, popcorn, nachos, hot dog, fountain drinks, and water for every fan this fall. Come out to Brooks Stadium, get your tickets now, and cheer on the Shots. Go Shots!
I got a new favorite team in college football. What? I must know more about this. Even if it's not, even if it's just one game and they run out of food, and the fact that they just are trying this. Never mind. Yeah, you got to do a couple, you know what I mean? The battle of the bulge, you know what I mean? I get that. You know what I mean? And you know, so I got to add a couple sit-ups and push-ups and pull-ups and Pilates and yoga, too much of a good. You telling me I go through, let me get a fountain drink, let me get you're not supposed to be drinking too much soda, but let me get a root beer, let me get a pretzel, let me get some nachos, let me get a dog. Let me get it. And I go, I sit down, I watch a little football, okay, good. Third quarter, I'm hungry again. Hey, same. Hey, you come through. Let me get some nachos. Let me get a dog. Let me get pretzels. Now I do water on the second trip. Got to hydrate. Let me get it. What? Again. It's just cool. It's a cool theory. Can they do it? Is there enough to go around? Yes, there is. But you have to have somebody underwriting this. You have to have, this isn't like university can't afford to do this. Okay. And it doesn't make sense because the universities rely on that football revenue to fund everything else. So it makes no sense. Going through all the pomp and circumstance to build up a football program, to have those games, to have those cash cow games, that amount for your budget, for the rest of the year. And then to just undermine those earnings by just giving everybody something free. No, it doesn't work. So colleges can't do this. You need a beneficiary. No, you need a benefactor. Let me get my words right. A beneficiary is somebody that receives. A benefactor, shout out to Great Expectations, Charles Dickens, my formative years. You need a benefactor. And whoever that individual is, that unnamed individual, and sometimes it's better that they, but salute. It's a good way to spread the wealth and put a smile on people's face and build up the Coastal Carolina football program. Good stuff. Okay, folks. Thrilled we're able to get on and do this again a little bit later, but hey, better late than never. Came through, got this taken care of. SandCity, we're gonna be with you over the weekend for the Final Four. There's no two ways about it on the men's and the women's side, and a number of other things. Okay, we're in April, so NFL draft is on the horizon. Most certainly, most definitely. Who knows what A-Rod is going to do? Teams jockeying and maneuvering for the next journey. Okay, college football teams canceling the spring game and this madness that's going on. SandCity's going to be with you. But hey, I'm your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for those that tuned in. Hope everybody gets your rest. It's only a Wednesday. We got 2 days to go. We're going to make it. Okay. End the week on a high note. End the week strong. So thank you so much. And I will see you again the next time. Peace.